You ever have one of those nights where you just feel exhausted? Your body feels tired, but your mind is going 100%. In addition to everything else you're thinking, your stomach is starting to feel weird. You feel a bit bloated, you're feeling stressed, and your sleep is completely destroyed. What if part of the problem was happening inside your gut? Because scientists are now studying something called the gut-brain axis. And what we're finding is that your gut bacteria may influence a slew of things in your body, including stress hormones, inflammation, mood, and definitely sleep quality. This may mean that your stomach and your brain may be talking to each other way more than most people realize. And today we're going to break this down simply. So first, when most people hear the word gut, what comes to your mind? You might think, well, food, digestion, and bathroom, right? And that's probably where it ends. But let's take a little bit more detailed look, because your digestive tract is actually home to trillions of microorganisms. That's including bacteria, viruses, and fungi. The entire ecosystem is called the gut microbiome. And no, not all bacteria are bad. In fact, many are incredibly important. Some of these bacteria will help break down food, some will help produce vitamins, and some help regulate inflammation. Now, luckily for us, most of us have more good bacteria than bad bacteria, the gut-brain axis. And that communication happens through hormones, the immune system, inflammation signals, and especially the vagus nerve. Think of the vagus nerve like a biological information highway between your gut and your brain. And vice versa, your brain affects your gut. And researchers are just finding out that stress can alter gut bacteria. While gut bacteria may also influence how stressed you may feel, and that's the wild part. Let's talk about stress for a second, because I would kind of guess that everybody is going through stress. And honestly, it feels like one giant cortisol experiment. You get a bunch of notifications, you have to go through hundreds of emails. People are arguing online about things nobody will remember next week. Your body wasn't built for this constant stress. It's not a good thing for your health. Now, when you're stressed, your body releases hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. That's part of the fight or flight response. And I can't stress enough that this feeling of chronic stress, it can and may affect your digestion, your inflammation, gut motility, and the balance of bacteria inside your gut. Some studies even suggest stress may reduce the microbial diversity. The more diverse microbiome, better overall health outcomes. And it's not perfect science, but we know that biodiversity matters. And here's something people often notice. And you tell me in the comment if you feel the same way. When you're stressed, does your stomach act weird? Like they're more bloated, or you have this queasy feeling, or you feel like you want to eat everything because maybe you're so stressed and food is some kind of a comfort signal. And that connection between your brain and your gut, it's communicating throughout all those moods. Now, how about the importance of sleep? Researchers are studying whether gut bacteria may influence things like sleep quality, sleep cycles, melatonin pathways, and neurotransmitters linked to relaxation. Now, before anyone gets carried away, I'm not saying probiotics cure insomnia. No one's saying that. But the relationship between sleep and gut health appears very real. Poor sleep may negatively affect the gut microbiome. Here we go again, the brain connection with your gut and vice versa. And it may disrupt your gut health, potentially influencing your sleep quality. And one of the biggest areas researchers are looking at is serotonin, chemical the brain releases. Some amount of serotonin production is associated with the gut. Now, serotonin is involved in mood regulation, and it's also connected to melatonin production. See the connection with the sleep quality? And melatonin being the hormone tied to sleep cycles? Well, you get it, right? Again, this is a complicated science. It's continuously evolving, and we don't fully understand how this connection works. But researchers are very interested in this communication pathway. And I'm figuring this explains why lifestyle habits often affect multiple systems at once. You know, when people sleep poorly, eat poorly, feel stressed, exercise less, that cycle keeps feeding itself and it compounds and compounds. Your body systems don't work separately. Everything is interconnected and everything overlaps each other. And naturally, you might have this next question. What can we actually do about this? We know that there is this connection and communication. This is where food comes in, especially fermented foods. It's part of the dietary guidelines. Now, fermented foods have existed for thousands of years, like these fermented foods on the screen, long before social media, wellness influencers ever discovered them. And fermented foods are becoming more mainstream in scientific discussions about gut health. Some contain live microorganisms commonly referred to as probiotics. Probiotics are not all the same. I have a full video that explains that at the end of this video. Different strains may have different effects. And not every fermented foods contain live cultures by the time you eat it. For example, high heat can destroy some live bacteria. So miso soup that's boiled hot may not contain as many surviving microbes compared to unheated fermented foods like kimchi. Another important concept is prebiotic. Prebiotics basically feed beneficial bacteria. The types of food like fiber and oats and other foods that are shown on this list. So it's not just take a probiotic. Your gut bacteria also need food to survive. If you think about it, this may explain why ultra-processed diets sometimes make people feel terrible long-term. Like low fiber, high sugar, you might have like a sugar high and then crash later. It all stacks up. You might feel that the internet loves oversimplifying microbiome science. And you'll see people online saying things like, well, fix your gut and you can cure pretty much everything. And that's not how biology works. The gut microbiome, the ecosystem is incredibly complex. Every person's microbiome is slightly different. And researchers are still figuring out which bacteria matter most, what healthy bacteria actually means, how probiotics affect individuals, and why some people respond differently than others. But so far, what do we know? We know that lifestyle matters. That includes sleep, the chronic stress that may affect you mentally and physically, and if you exercise regularly, or if your diet is full of processed foods. These things seem deeply connected to the gut health overall. And while science is still evolving, the gut-brain axis is becoming one of the most fascinating areas of health research right now, which honestly makes me think differently about health overall. Because sometimes we treat symptoms like isolated problems, but the body doesn't really work that way. Sleep affects stress. Stress affects food choices, food affects the gut may affect the brain, and the cycle continues. Now, does this mean fermented foods are magic? No, but it probably does mean that lifestyle patterns matter more than most people realize. So maybe take care of your gut is also part of taking care of your mind. And honestly, that's pretty incredible. If you enjoyed this video, check out our other full episodes on probiotics, fermented foods, blood sugar, and the science of healthy aging. And if you learned something new today, be sure to subscribe to Health Made Simple, because health information should not require a medical degree to understand. Thanks everyone for watching.